I hope you guys are having all a flippin-tastic evening. Cypher, yes you do. Welcome to the stream, Cypher. I do have something very excited to show you guys. We got something in finally that I'm very happy to show you guys about. Something that I created on the merch shop that I wanted to show you. I actually finally got one. I made a desk mat. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Okay, you kind of see the purple, but it's purple. I freaking love it. So we got desk mats in. So that's something I was like really excited for. I was trying to get it really right. Very excited. And I'm not gonna lie, you guys, it feels so nice. We got some new Halloween stuff in just for the sake of it. So it'll probably come back at some point, but this is just for like the Spooktober stuff. I'm very proud of it. It took me a while to like put it together, like especially like the hoodies and stuff like that. But I have the little, you know, my little Halloween design on it, so I'm pretty happy about it. Well, but here's the desk mat, 30 bucks right now. I even have the champion hoodie on here with the Spooktober logo. If you guys do end up getting something, take a photo of it, hashtag like Ghost Potter in like Instagram or Twitter or wherever you're posting it, and I want to like repost some of your guys' stuff and take a look. So we're gonna be starting with Jesus Christ. Good boy. Oh my god, that made my heart jump. Why was that so loud for me? Why was that so loud? All right, so we're gonna start with something from 4 days ago. It is called Cornfield Horror Stories. Pumpkin heist, really?
A few years ago, just before Halloween, I was best friends with this guy named CJ. We were both troublemakers growing up, and did a lot of bad shit, like stealing, ding-dong ditch, stuff like that. We lived in the countryside, so there wasn't much to do. The town had a few houses here and there, but was mostly surrounded by farmland. There were a lot of cornfields, but a handful of farmers also grew pumpkin patches. The whole town went to places like that right before Halloween to pick out the nicest pumpkins to carve into jack-o'-lanterns. But, of course, all these wholesome memories didn't mean shit to me and CJ. All we wanted to do was steal the biggest pumpkins we could get our hands on. But it wasn't as easy as it sounded. The shitty thing is that we both knew the guy who owned the farm. He was an old bastard that was always there, always guarding the pumpkin patch like he had nothing better to do with his time.
Why does he look like that?
CJ and I planned on coming back late, when the guy was most likely asleep and also with no one around. We decided to go exactly a week before Halloween, when the pumpkin patch would be open for the season. We figured the old man would be way too frail to chase or do anything to us, even if he was still capable of staying up past 8 p.m. Around 1 a.m., I picked CJ up, then we set off. The old man's farm was 30 minutes from Main Street. As we got closer, things felt more serious, like the time for laughter was over until the deed was done. At the farm, all the corn had just been harvested, leaving most of the field surrounding his house completely flat and open, not shrouded in stalks like we'd been thinking. Still, the lights in the house were off, and as long as I didn't make any noise by rolling my truck up his driveway, it seemed like we would be fine. After all, the old man had to be dead asleep. Being careful not to shine any headlights on the house, I parked my truck off the side of the road. Then we started to sneak our way up to the pumpkin patch. With each step, I felt a growing sense of dread. We had only the moonlight to guide us, but even then, out there, I felt so exposed. I constantly kept looking at the house to make sure the guy wasn't watching us, or if any lights turned on inside, but nothing happened. As we walked further and further, the pumpkins came into view. When we finally made it to the pumpkin patch, I felt a bit of relief. Just getting there seemed to prove this whole thing was possible, and now we were surrounded by what could end up being hundreds of dollars worth of pumpkins. All that was left to do was start carrying the goods to my truck. But then, CJ took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. Dude, what the hell are you doing? Turn that off! Relax, he's not gonna see us. We got all the way here, didn't we? Yeah, without flashlights. Stop screwing around. How else am I supposed to know the good from the bad ones? They're all good, dumbass. Just turn that light off or I'm leaving. Now! Don't you dare leave me here, chicken shit. Shit! Run! After the first shot, we ran for our lives. We tried to find our way with CJ's flashlight, but it kept leading the shooter right to us. Shot after shot rang out, blowing the pumpkins at our feet to pieces. I thought for sure it was going to be one of our skulls next. But then, out of nowhere, we ran right over a ditch. Both of us tripped and collapsed into the dirt, just a yard or two from where we fell. CJ scrambled to shut off his light. Then we huddled as close to the bottom of the ditch as we could, trying to disappear. We kept an ear out, listening. There were no more shots, but soon there were footsteps. They sounded just like our footsteps, just crunching across the flat, dead corn. They more than likely knew we were close, like they didn't have to wander to find us. Finally, I made a judgment call. If they got any closer, we were both going to end up in jail, or even worse, die. While I still thought we had a window of hope, I got up and grabbed CJ off the ground, and we made a run for it. The shots kept coming as we ran, kicking the dirt up all around us, always just inches away.
He sucks
but
at
we
shooting.
made it out of the field. We jumped into my truck. Then as I frantically turned the key, I looked back for the first time. In the middle of the dark, empty field was the old corn farmer standing right there, holding a hunting rifle while looking dead at us.
Can we talk about something real quick? This guy had a hunting rifle.
We jumped into my truck.
This guy had a hunting rifle with a scope on it. There is a scope on this thing, and the guy couldn't hit his shots. Seems like seems like that would have been a little different in a real life scenario, but maybe I'm wrong. I feel like if he had the scope on it, he was using it. You know what I mean? So I mean, wouldn't you hit something rather than completely missing? I don't know. That's just me.
The dark, empty field was the old corn farmer standing right there, holding a hunting rifle while looking dead at us. I didn't look for long. I got the car running. Then I spun around and stepped on it all the way home. And that's the story of when CJ and I successfully got away with attempting to steal the old man's pumpkins while literally dodging death. He gave us all the warning we needed. CJ and I remained friends after that night, but we never tried anything so stupid again. Yeah. Not after we almost died trying to steal pumpkins. This story was inspired.
Crazy, dude. Crazy. Let's see this. This is like the inspired, like real life scenario thing.
By an incident regarding a pumpkin robbery. Farms View Road Stand in New Jersey was robbed of 200 pumpkins, and the thieves were caught in the act by the security cameras. At first, it might not seem like this would be a very profitable crime, but according to the owner of the pumpkin stand, they would have ended up selling for close to $3,000. The owners of the pumpkin stand were so distraught over the loss of the pumpkins that they offered a cash reward to anyone who had information on the suspects. The robbery itself happened in 3 stages. The security camera showed a vehicle approaching the pumpkin farm 3 different times during one night, and a team of individuals jumped out to load up the pumpkins. It was a calculated plan for stealing the pumpkins, and we may never know their motive. Fortunately, if the thieves' intent was to try and shut down the family-owned pumpkin stand, they were unsuccessful.
So no one actually shot at them. Makes more sense. Or story 1. Curious about this one. Trunk or treats. Ooh.
When I was old enough to go trick-or-treating by myself, my family started making me take my cousin with me. She was a girl and a few years younger, so it made sense to keep her safe. I didn't mind it as she and I were pretty close. In a way, it was kind of a tradition. My parents would take me over to my cousin's house, then we'd get our costumes on, which were usually matching. I didn't mind that either. Matching costumes always got more candy, and that's all I really cared about. One year, I dressed as Chucky, and my cousin was the bride of Chucky. We started around sunset, first going around the block to hit our neighbors' houses. Then we began to walk to the wealthier area where the bigger houses were. It was almost a mile of solid trick-or-treating between her house and that area. So by the time we arrived, we milked that area for everything it had, not turning back until people were turning off their porch lights.
Let's go.
Then it was time for the long walk back home. At this point, our bags were full, and it became quite dark. At some point, We saw a car parked on the curb ahead, with a guy standing outside of it.
The
The
guy.
trunk was open, and he was pulling fistfuls of candy out of it, shoving them into the faces of trick-or-treaters who were walking by him, but they wouldn't take anything. There's no secret as to why either. The
What
guy was
the- why
creepy
do you-
as hell,
why does he
tall
look
and
like that?
built, but also old and sketchy looking. He started eyeing us before we even got close. My little cousin made it clear she wanted none of what he was giving out, so I made sure she stood by me, as there was no way to go but past him. As we approached, he smiled, waving candy in our faces.
Hey, lovebirds, want some free candy?
Lovebirds.
Yeah, no thanks. And also, we're cousins.
Why should that stop you?
We walked past him,
Hey, yo.
but he wouldn't take his eyes off of us. He even started following us, getting right up behind my cousin. I could tell
Oh,
she was
heck no.
freaking out on the inside and trying to keep it together, so I stepped in before he went any further.
Come on, have a kiss.
Back off! What's your problem?
My problem is I've got a boatload of candy and nobody wants to take any. At this point, you can just have it all. I just want one little thing in return. Leave us alone or I'm calling the cops. Go on, run home like the little pussy you are.
About
Hey, yo.
30 feet from his car,
Kids,
the
man.
man stopped following us, but we kept walking away as fast as we could. The farther we went, the fewer people were out on the street. I thought about knocking on someone's door and asking for help, but I just wanted to get home. Before I knew it, we were the only ones out, except for one singular car driving behind us. It wasn't driving though, it was cruising, barely faster than our walking pace. Looking over my shoulder, I couldn't see inside because the windows were tinted, but it seemed like the same car that creep was standing outside of.
Same color.
My cousin was also aware of the car, and she was starting to panic. I decided to take a random right turn, hoping the car would just drive past, but it didn't. It took the same turn. That's when I knew for sure we were being followed, and there was nobody else it could be but that same creep. The car was basically driving right beside us at this point, matching our speed. I didn't know what to do. I then heard the car park right behind us. We were too scared to look back at that moment. Maybe
What?
he had just arrived
You
at
need
his
to
house
look.
and was going
Turn
inside.
around.
Suddenly,
Hey,
I got
yo.
slammed in the back. I saw the man carrying my cousin over his shoulder. I went into fight or flight and ran over to do whatever I could to stop him.
Yeah. You punch him in the throat.
Let her go! Let her go! Somebody help me! Get lost, kid!
It happened so fast. By the time I caught up, he was already opening the back seat and throwing her inside the car. I hit him as hard as I could again and again, but he was unfazed. He then turned back and shoved the side of my face, sending me flying on the concrete once
yo.
again, then through the veins of my own eyes. I saw the car driving away. There wasn't even a license plate for me to try and read. As I came to, I looked around in disbelief. I was surrounded by a horde of spilled candy, alone on the empty street, and my little cousin had vanished. I freaked out, crying and screaming for help. I banged on doors until somebody answered and called the cops for me. The police came, then our parents, then the whole damn neighborhood. Everybody went looking for my cousin. There was an entire manhunt, and yet they never found a trace of my cousin or the man that kidnapped her. It's been years since that night, and my
Years?
cousin has been missing ever since.
Oh,
Whether she's
man,
still
she's
alive or
dead.
not, I can't imagine how much she suffered. Every Halloween, I have nightmares reliving the entire thing over and over. People always tell me I did everything I could, but it still feels impossible not to blame myself for what happened.
He just pops up.
This story was inspired by several Halloween Reddit posts that involved the attempted kidnapping of trick-or-treaters, trick-or-treating from someone's trunk of their vehicle. The term is called trunk kidnapping, which refers to being forced into a car's trunk. The term is also known as trunk-or-treating, a Halloween alternative where candy is given out from the car's trunk. This is a common Halloween tradition where children go to decorated cars in a parking lot and get candy from the trunk, instead of the traditional trick-or-treating from door to door. Some believe it is considered a safe alternative to trick-or-treating because it avoids the street crime and danger. However, others argue that trunk-or-treating is far more dangerous due to the trick-or-treaters being more susceptible to being forced into a car's trunk and ultimately kidnapped.
Yeah, I feel like that's worse. I feel like it's a lot worse to be walking around and trick-or-treating from trunks. But I know nowadays there are trunk or treats at like what's it called? Like churches and like apartment communities, stuff like that. And I feel like that's more safer than you walking on like a street like or like a regular house is. Man, that's sad. I can't believe. Do you know how like distraught that kid was for like years and years? Like he couldn't even save his cousin, you know what I mean? But he tried.
Before you hire a lawyer for your injury case, ask them these three
I don't want to
questions.
hire a lawyer.
Where are you based?
How many lawyers and staff do you have?
This happened around the middle of fall a few years ago. I was working as a cashier at Spirit Halloween, one of a couple of seasonal jobs I switched between. Honestly, Spirit Halloween was my favorite place to work.
Halloween.
All I really did was sell party supplies and Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
For the most part, the job itself was easy. It's a lot less demanding than working at some place like Walmart or Target, but every job has its bad parts. And for Spirit Halloween, it's the people. Not all of them, just some of them. Like annoying little kids who run around and mess with everything like we're a library of toys. Or the smart-ass guy who thinks it's funny to put on a mask and jump out at people with fake knives in their hands. Worst of all, it's the thieves. When I first started working there, I didn't expect shoplifting to be much of a problem. Like any big store, we have a no-chase policy for liability reasons, but as employees, we're still held accountable for loss of inventory to a degree, so we keep an eye out for suspicious customers. It's better to confront them before they try to leave, and give them a chance to surrender their stolen items before calling the police.
Dang, that was a lot of
on
stuff.
them. One night, I was working at the register by myself, while my only other co-worker on shift was cleaning and stocking. We were both
By
fairly
yourself?
busy with our respective tasks.
That's crazy.
With mine though, there's lots of little moments of downtime, like waiting for customers to pay and standing there while the system processes. During those little moments, I was keeping an eye out on the other customers walking around. At some point, close to the end of the night, these two girls walked in together. I didn't want to judge based off looks alone, but they seemed like high schoolers. They had backpacks and were on their phones making or watching TikToks. Typically, kids that age have no money and no regard for consequences, so I suspected they might try and steal makeup or something similar.
Why
They
does
were
she
being
look like
loud and laughing obnoxiously as well, which was its own reason to keep watch of them. It didn't take long for them to catch me surveilling them, and they gave me some nasty stink eye for it, even talking shit just loud enough for me to hear.
Look at this bitch profiling us. What a loser. I bet she got this job by using her tongue.
At that moment, I was too busy to care much more than that as they walked into the rest of the store. I let them go about their business for a while. I decided to casually follow the direction they went in, and it didn't take long to find them. They weren't even trying to hide what they were doing either. They were blatantly stuffing merchandise into their backpacks. I rushed up and confronted them saying,
Excuse me? I just saw you put those things in your bags. Chill out, lady. We were gonna buy them, we just didn't want to use the baskets. You don't think I've heard that excuse 1,000 times? Just hand over what you took and I won't call the police. We didn't take anything, so leave us alone, nut licker. Get that shit out of your backpack, now. Make us, bitch.
The girl I was
Make
talking
us,
to
bitch.
started to run away, and admittedly, what I did next was a stupid mistake.
Oh, no.
But my emotions got the best of me.
Oh, jeez.
I reached out and grabbed her arm, pulling her back so she couldn't get away. Suddenly, the other girl grabbed me from behind and body slammed me. When I hit the ground, the wind got knocked out of me. I then started trying to get back up. The second I was able to get onto my knees, I looked up and saw her holding a bottle of pepper spray in my face. The next thing I knew, my eyes were blasted. I went blind immediately. Then the heat and fire engulfed my face, even my entire body. I
that's
couldn't
gotta
breathe,
hurt.
and I was gagging uncontrollably. I panicked, screaming and flailing, trying to grab onto something and pull myself up. I slammed into the shelves, knocking things onto the ground, and tripped onto the floor myself a few more times, before I finally heard the voice of my coworker. They held on to me and helped me calm down, then led me to the bathroom to rinse out my eyes and mouth. They even called the ambulance for me, and I was taken to the hospital. There were many more minutes of pure agony before I felt like I could see or breathe anywhere close to normal, and the pain persisted for hours afterward. But I did turn out okay, of course. By then, those girls had long since fled from the store, though it didn't take long for the cops to track them down and arrest them at their houses. The legal proceedings afterward were complicated by the actions I took, which were against policy, and their lawyers even argued that the assault was justified as self-defense because of them. Thankfully, they did get justice, but it's not like they were put away for very long. Now, whenever fall comes around, I remember this incident. Every time I have to clock in for Spirit Halloween, I'm afraid I'll see them again. 2 women have been arrested after an attack on a worker at a North London, Ontario store. Police began investigating after an employee was pepper sprayed. Police and an ambulance responded to a Spirit Halloween at about 9:40 p.m. Wednesday night after an employee was allegedly attacked. Police say 2 women entered the business, where they were then observed concealing items in bags, and were subsequently asked to leave the store. An argument broke out, and one of the employees was attacked with pepper spray. Police were contacted, and the 2 women fled the store. Fortunately, the victims did not sustain serious injuries, police said. Both women were later arrested at their residences. As a result of the investigation, both women were released from custody and are due in the London court at a later date. The victim says there have been 7 different incidents over the past 3 months
London?
in which employees of the store have been physically attacked.
This happened in London? That's actually kind of crazy that it happened in London. I thought it was just I thought it was like in America or something. Ooh, beans. It's funny how this stuff can happen like nowadays, or in the past, like this stuff can happen. But now, I don't know, people are always have like phones on them and stuff like that. People are more nervous, I feel like, to do something wrong. But I don't know, like I said earlier, we could not be seeing these things happening. They're like not going on the news or stuff like that to like scare the public, maybe. I don't know. When is the last time you heard something like this happening? Since like 2016. I like these okay, what is this one again? This one is MJ and MJV Animations and Horror Shorts Party. I love these both. They're really good animations. Okay, weird.
This happened 2 years ago on Halloween of 2023. I'm a 25-year-old male, but at the time of this story, I was 22. I had a long day of work due to a festival we had where we had parents bring their kids to the center for various activities, such as many different competitive games, a costume contest, trivia for candy, and a kids vs. parents dodgeball game. Overall, it was a very fun time, but it was definitely tiring. For context, I'm a community worker, so doing community events is pretty much what I do on a normal basis, but it's also draining if that makes sense. Anyway, after it was all done, I went home and was ready to call it a night. About an hour after I got home, it was around 6 something, my little sister called me. My sister, who I'll call Savannah, wanted me to take her and my nephew, who I'll call Jackson, trick-or-treating because neither our parents nor Jackson's parents felt like doing it. And as it usually goes, it fell on me to be the cool big brother to step in and make it happen.
Yeah.
Savannah was 15 and Jackson was 11. Even though I wasn't feeling it at all, I got up, threw some clothes on, and headed to my parents' house to pick them up. Once I got there, I asked if they were ready, but Savannah was still finalizing her costume. She was dressed up as Raven from Teen Titans. She even had the white makeup on to give that ghostly appearance Raven usually has. Jackson was dressed as Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat.
Hell yeah,
Once Savannah was done,
let's go.
we got in the car and were on our way. I took them to a pretty busy neighborhood to make sure they got as much candy as possible. Upon arrival, we started going from house to house. Everyone we ran into was friendly and had plenty of treats to hand out. There was even one house where an older man gave them each a hot dog and a soda. He said every year for Halloween he doesn't hand out candy. He grills food instead because he'd rather give kids something with protein since it's good for the body. Honestly, we probably need more people like that. We passed a lot of other kids, and some gave compliments to Savannah and Jackson's costumes. I also saw some really cool costumes myself. Everyone in the area seemed to go all out. When we hit the last house for the night, we started walking back to the car. It was about a 10-minute walk since we had gone pretty far down the neighborhood. The neighborhood was less active now, and there weren't as many people out and about. That's why I got alarmed when I looked across the street and saw a person dressed in all black, standing in a yard where there were no porch lights on.
Hey, yo.
I'm surprised I even noticed them at all, but I tend to always pay attention to my surroundings. When I looked closer, it seemed like the person was wearing a hooded cloak with an all-black outfit and a mask because I couldn't see their face at all. I honestly couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. Whoever it was, they appeared to be looking at us. I told Savannah and Jackson to stay close to me and said, "There's a suspicious person across the yard. Look, but don't stare." I said that so they could see who I was talking about without encouraging the person to approach or follow us. Jackson laughed and thought it was just someone trying to scare people walking by. Savannah, though, looked noticeably worried. Now, just to add some context, I was carrying a backpack with a Glock inside, and Savannah knew this, so when I told them to stay close, she probably realized I was being serious. Jackson was clueless. He's too young for me to tell him that I carry a real gun. As we were walking away, it looked like that person was still watching us, even though it was hard to tell in the dark. We were getting closer to the car when I suddenly heard heavy footsteps behind us, like boots hitting the concrete. I turned around and saw that same person again. Same outfit, all black, but this time I could see more clearly. They were wearing a tactical vest, tactical boots, and black pants tucked into the boots. They had on a full spandex mask that completely covered their face. That made the situation way more serious. When you see someone dressed like that, the first thing that comes to mind is that they're armed. He's following us, I thought. I whispered to Savannah and Jackson, "I need you both to listen very carefully. Do not stop walking and do not look back. The person I mentioned earlier is following us. They're behind us right now. The last thing we want is to alarm them or set them off, so just keep your composure and keep walking." I mainly looked at Jackson when saying this because he's younger and might not fully understand how serious this was. Savannah understood completely. We kept walking and did occasional glances behind us. The person stayed the same distance away, but was still following. When we got to the car, they were still coming our way. That's when I decided to make a bold move. I pulled out my Glock and pointed it at the person.
Okay, whoa.
I asked why they're following us. The person raised their hand.
He said, "Bitch, what the fuck are you doing?" Hell yeah, dude. That is what I would do.
As if they didn't expect me to do that, then slowly removed their mask. It was a woman, and she looked to be in her 30s. She took her mask off, but didn't answer my question. She just stared at me blankly. I asked again, still pointing the gun, "Why are you following us?" What she said next made no sense. In an almost robotic tone, she said, "I'm an undercover cop. I was told there was a break-in, so I came to check it out. That's why I was standing outside that house.
What?
But when you looked at me funny, I assumed you were the one who did it. So it would be wise to lower that weapon, or I could have you arrested for threatening an officer of the law." I hesitated, but then lowered my gun. What else was I supposed to do? I didn't want to risk an arrest or ruin the kid's night.
You should have said,
but
"Let me see a
her story
badge."
didn't make any sense. She claimed she got word of a break-in, so why would she just stand outside facing away from the house? How did me looking at her funny make her think I was the one who did it? Why would I break into a house and then casually walk through the neighborhood? And why was she wearing a hooded cloak? All these questions were racing through my mind, so I asked her, "If you're undercover, why are you in tactical gear? Wouldn't that kind of give away that you're law enforcement? And what's the point of the cloak?"
For real.
She didn't answer. She just stared at me again, but this time her expression changed. There was something malicious in her eyes, like she was irritated that I didn't believe her and was deciding what to do next. Jackson and Savannah stayed completely quiet through all of this. Then she smiled this creepy, unsettling smile and said, "If you didn't have that gun, this night would have ended a hell of a lot different for you."
Hey, yo.
Right as she finished saying that, I noticed 4 figures suddenly emerge from between the houses, walking toward us. All of them were wearing tactical gear, but without the cloak. I instantly told Savannah and Jackson to get in the car, keeping my eyes on the woman and the figures. Once I saw they were in, I got into and drove off. As I was leaving, the woman was still standing there, smiling. The others, 3 men and 1 woman, were not smiling. They had blank, emotionless faces, like they didn't even have souls. It's hard to explain. The whole car ride back was silent. I'm sure the kids were in shock, just like I was. I dropped them off, made sure they got in safely, then went home to process everything that happened. The thing I couldn't shake off was why they targeted us. The neighborhood was full of people walking around, so why us?
True.
I wish I could say it ended there, but it didn't. A few days later,
No
I got
way.
a text from an unknown number. It was just a photo, no words. The picture was of my car, taken in the parking lot of my apartment complex. I contacted the police and told them everything that happened on Halloween night. They took the report, but they couldn't investigate unless a direct threat was made.
Right.
Typical. Out of curiosity, and maybe stupidity, I went back to that same house where I first saw that woman. I knocked on the door, and a man in his 40s answered. I asked if they'd experienced a break-in on Halloween night. He looked confused and said no. He said he went to bed early because he had work the next morning and didn't notice anything strange. I told him what I saw, and he had no idea what I was talking about. I thanked him for his time and left. At that point, I already knew the undercover cop story was fake, but I wanted to do my own little investigation just to make sense of it. Whoever that woman and those people were somehow knew my phone number and where I lived. It makes me wonder, was that not a random encounter after all? Were they watching me for a while? Were they planning something that night? And my being armed threw them off? All those thoughts messed me up and made me feel paranoid for a long time. I had to go to therapy and install a Ring camera at my front door just to feel safe again. In case you're wondering, I haven't been contacted by any unknown numbers since. Nothing else has happened since that picture. 2 years later, I still think back on that night. Writing this out helps me a lot, and I'm trying to fully move on from it. But if there's one thing I want people to take away from this, it's to always watch your surroundings.
Yeah.
You never know who might be watching you.
What did I say in the beginning of the stream? What did I say? Dude, this is why you stay vigilant, man. I'm telling you.
It's easy to get caught up in something dangerous just for existing, so always stay safe and protected, because I can say with full confidence that being armed that night probably saved our lives.
All right, that was good. Mr. Nightmare, I love all of these so far. So Mr. Nightmare is one that doesn't have any animations. It's just like the photos and stuff. But the other ones were pretty good. I like the animated ones more, just because obviously I can just see more. You know what I mean? I can just see better.